Hi, everybody. It's Jose Velasquez with Higher Military. I'm so excited today to bring you two amazing people, two veterans, a mentor and a protege who are experiencing life in the transition process. One has the experience of having transitioned completely, and one is in the process of transitioning and actually has already found a job. So this is positive news. So this segment, of course, is sponsored by American Corporate Partners. ACP's innovative approach brings together active duty, veterans, reservists, and military spouses with corporate professionals in leading industries for customized mentorships. As they like to say, find your next career with ACP. And so first things first, I'd like to introduce you to our gentlemen who are visiting with us today. Mike Morand is a director for channel strategy vaccines for Johnson & Johnson, an incredibly important time for the vaccination program and for the significance of it. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jose. Glad to be here.
And in addition, Quenton, who is a protege and an MBA candidate. He's also a deputy program manager for Honeywell. Quenton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So real quick to everyone who's listening. So you're going to see that you can ask questions. You can interact with us on LinkedIn, but you can also interact with us on YouTube and on Facebook. So if those platforms are better for you, if you'd like to ask questions there, we'll be able to see those questions. So I encourage you to go ahead and ask. In addition to that, we do have members of the ACP team who are listening in and answering questions for you on programmatics. So you'll be able to see them. They'll be able to see you. And if you have specific questions about how to enter the ACP program, they'll be glad to answer those questions for you. So first of all, Quenton, let's talk to you. Tell us a little bit more about your experience in your transition. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on, an MBA candidate and working a job at Honeywell. In addition to that, tell us a little bit about your transition, where you were in in your space as you transitioned, how it went for you. And then in addition to that, of course, participating in ACP.
Yeah, so my transition started in late 2019. I decided to get out of the military, transition to the civilian world. And, that in and of itself is a huge event, just to get out of the military alone. That's a big event. And it's not made any easier by the stress that you need to get a real job. And, COVID also was on top of that, which was making it a big event. So I would say that, the beginning of last year was probably one of the most stressful times of my life. But it was a really great growing opportunity for me. I found out about ACP through the SFL TAP program. And one of the things that drew me to it was that you can be partnered with someone who has found success. It works for them. They've made it in the corporate world. And for me, coming out of the military, and I'm sure that's similar for a lot of people, you have that nagging question of like, am I going to make it? Am I an imposter? Am I not going to make it in the real world? But that was one of the benefits for me, was to sit down with Mike, month after month, and sit there and talk to him, talk to him about my concerns, and have him help me, talk to him about his experience. And then as we were to walk down the path together of, writing a resume, preparing for interviews, talking through the process, negotiating salaries and everything, it was really great to have somebody who I could decompress to and talk to honestly every step of the way as I moved from service member to fully employed civilian. So that was the biggest benefit for me for the ACP program.
So Quenton, I know you're an Army veteran, but Mike is an Air Force veteran, and we couldn't give him couldn't pass up the opportunity to mess with an Air Force guy. But Mike, we really do appreciate you being here as well. And would you share a little bit about your experience as a transitioning service member who is now a busy executive, but in addition to your relationship with Quenton?
No, happy to. So I transitioned about 10 years ago. I've been with Johnson & Johnson for 10 years, very proudly. And when I transitioned, I was an ACP protege. I was kind of in Quenton's shoes. And I remember having those same kind of conversations that he was describing just all manner of topics. I had a difficult conversation with my boss today. I feel like I made a kind of goof something up. What do I do? And celebrating, the good and the bad, and getting my sort of sea legs under me. I think one of the things that really helped me as a protege was recognizing that I'm not the only one who's kind of experienced these things. Others have kind of gone through this before, and to hear that some of the things I was grappling with, some of the challenges I was facing, are kind of a more common experience. Those kind of questions and challenges of identity. I remember thinking to myself at points, I've joked with Quenton about this. I went from knowing what my job was, feeling like I was part of this really closely knit group, feeling like I was part of the family. I felt like I had a purpose, to being, Mike, that idiot who can't figure out the copy machine. And it was just that question, right, of like, well, what have I done? Like, is this really, as Quenton said, right, am I going to be successful here? Can I make it in this space? And will they accept me as somebody who can contribute to the success of the team and to the organization? And I think just having those kind of periodic connections with my mentor at the time, just to say, kind of, is this normal? What would you do? What do you think? I remember being extremely comforting, and helped me kind of build a better sense of confidence that I could, just stay the course and continue, working away and getting better and better at what I was being asked to do. But 10 years has kind of flown by, and I've been privileged in doing a lot of different roles, and now even more privileged to kind of give back. And I think that's really when I think about sort of my capacity as a mentor in this program. It's been extremely rewarding, being able to kind of pay it forward to kind of hear some of the experiences that Quenton's going through, and sort of also reflecting on the experiences I've had. It sounds so familiar, and just being able to kind of relate and connect with with a fellow veteran, and just continue to hopefully pay that forward.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And one of the things that, Quenton, when Quenton said, am I an imposter? Do I have what it takes out here? It reminded me a lot about, my personal experiences. It's easy to measure up when you know what the bar is in uniform, but when you are transitioning, it's all so scary, and it's so new. And for those of us who've spent most of our adult lives in uniform, it can be incredibly intimidating. So, Quenton, in your situation, did you feel like you were getting into the field that you wanted to get into right out the bat? Did you feel like you had the answer to that, or was there some discovery there?
There was some discovery. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I got out of the military. I did want to be, I'm in deputy program management. I'm in program management at Honeywell, and that ended up being what I wanted to do. I found that out after Mike and I talked for a while. We had to kind of wade through that and do some self-discovery, but I was able to get the job I wanted to, and with the company I wanted to, and in the place that I wanted to. But it was not, it's not the process it's not an instant process. It's not like you get out of the military and you get your job and you're there. It's a long process. And one of the benefits is to get started early.
Yeah.
If I could encourage anybody to do anything, it's like, get started early, start doing that self-discovery, figure out what you want.
Yeah.
And that was what was helpful with the ACP. With Mike, was able to talk that out, and he was kind of able to guide me, talking me through, hey, here's what your experience has been in the military. This is probably going to help you out in this field or this field, and kind of guide me along a path that, one, interested me, but also helped me have experiences and work experience that was going to help me secure that job.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that, you shared, the relationship that you built over time. For me, as I shared with you prior to starting the program, I know I'm a slow learner, so it took me twice to get through the program with two amazing mentors, and they were so patient with me, and I'm so appreciative. And I maintain a relationship with them to this day. But I have to assume that there is a give and take, and that both of you gain something from it. Mike, you're such a busy professional, especially at this time. And yet you stepped up to the plate to support Quenton and his goals. Where in the world did you find the time? And I think you noted a little bit about it, but would you share, in addition to that, why you volunteered to mentor.
Yeah, so it's you know, an hour a month is kind of about what we're kind of currently committing, and there might be the odd question here or there, but you know, I think an hour a month is not a lot of time, and to be honest, it's an investment I'm very happy to make. I feel like I get so much more than an hour's worth of energy coming out of these conversations. So kind of selfishly, you know, I feel like the conversations I have with Quenton give me energy and give me extra kind of motivation to kind of go back and do more of my job. I look forward to our conversations. And as you cited, Jose, it is a give and take. You know, I learn from Quenton. I think the questions he asks and the experiences he's going through help me learn as well. So I think in that way, it also helps me be a better professional, a better contributor. And as an aspiring kind of, you know, organizational leader, thinking about, you know, having more of that perspective of what experiences look like for, you know, our future leaders in the organization, you know, it helps me, again, kind of just get better at what I do and how I create value or help create value for the organization. But it's been a remarkably rewarding experience. And, you know, just, again, I really look forward to the conversations with Quenton each month.
Yeah. So, you know, you joked with me ahead of time that, you know, there are, it almost feels like there's stages of grief as you transition from uniform. Of course, you experienced that 10 years ago. Quenton and I are experiencing it just now, or at least recently. You know, share your thoughts about that. I know some days it may even feel like you're still in the process of transitioning. I hope not too much, but maybe still.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I can't help but to laugh, you know, when I hear about imposter syndrome, because I don't think that feeling goes away. You know, there's still days when I kind of show up just like, you know, it's only a matter of time until they figure out that, you know, that I actually don't belong here, that I'm not actually qualified to do what I do. But I think, you know, I think what I'd say to my kind of myself 10 years ago is just, you know, just stay the course. It gets better. You know, I think a big part of what I've enjoyed about my work over the last 10 years is building the relationships. Just as I've kind of have gotten to know Quenton, right? Just like other business relationships and relationships with partners and teammates, just as it was in the service. Getting to know these just truly incredible men and women who are so incredibly talented, and getting to know them not just as teammates, but as individuals. You know, learning more about kind of where they come from, what their path has been like, what their background is. Seeking great solace in that. And I think that helps with the imposter syndrome. It kind of helps bat that down, that we're all sort of learning and we're all sort of in this together and nobody's perfect. You know, we're all still learning. We're all trying to be better. We're all trying to do the right thing for the organization to support our customers, our patients, you know, those who we're trying to kind of, you know, create the value for in different ways. So, you know, I think that's just something where just continuing to show up and continuing to kind of invest in those relationships and continuing to invest in yourself and your skills. It keeps getting better and better and better as you go. So I just say, you know, there are times when it feels dark and hopeless. But I think we all go through that. And, you know, invariably it seems we come out the other side even stronger.
Yeah. So Ryan's saying he's so scared. Ryan, you're amongst friends, my friend. You're amongst friends. So Quenton not only took the opportunity to transition because it's so easy during a COVID environment, but in addition, he jumped into an MBA program at Auburn and also, you know, jumped in with a leading corporation, Honeywell. What were you thinking? That's like a lot to take on at once.
Yeah, it was a lot to take on at once. My eyes were bigger than my stomach leaving the military. I had a very rosy view that it was going to be, you know, sign a few papers, I'll be transitioned out. Everyone's telling me how much people want to hire service members, so I'll just cruise right on into a job, and there'll be no bumps on the road. There are bumps, Ryan, like you said. It's fine to be scared. I got more scared as I went along because I realized what I was getting into, but realizing that up front and understanding that it's not going to be a smooth road is a big step forward. Once you get over that hump, you can start to begin to prepare for some of the things you're going to meet. Education for me was a big goal because I just wanted to get started on my MBA as soon as I could. you can do it. Don't overload yourself. Go about one class a semester is about all I would suggest if anybody wants to do that, because even if you look ahead and go, I'm transitioning, I've got 6 months to transition, I'll just be doing SFL tap and that's it. There are a ton of things you haven't thought about yet. You're going to be looking at moving, probably looking at a job, trying to build a resume, prepping for interviews. So get started on what you wanted to, but take it slowly, take it little steps at a time. Don't think you're going to get your MBA in 2 years and be good to go. And so, yeah. And then the job part of it was another obstacle for me, but was just, again, taking it bite size, because when you come out of the military, you are probably NCO officer and you've been leading people, you know what to do. And suddenly you're in a world where you, like Mike was saying, like, you don't even know where the copier is. And even if you find it, you probably don't know how to use it. It's just taking it in bite-sized elements.
Yeah.
Prepping for one thing at a time, working on your resume, getting some help with the interview process, learning what you want to do in the world. Yeah. And just taking it slowly and getting started as soon as you can. That's the key to success, I would say, with those two elements.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that, you talked about that, because I think sometimes people underestimate how long it really is until you feel confident. And maybe there is no being confident on the uniform side of your transition, but how long it takes to prepare for transition, the process. I think somebody said to me the other day, when I was asking a question in one of these events, what's the right time to transition? And the person said yesterday. And then the person said, the real question is, what's the second best time to transition? And that's today, and it really caught me off guard, because I was like, that is a great answer. And it really feels like that. And I know people who are prepared, long after they've transitioned, but other people who feel like, they've got 30 days. When I went through my transition class, there were people that had 60 days and were calm as a cucumber sitting next to me. And I was like, I am freaking out, and I've got like 9 months left. So maybe some of that is just confidence level. Maybe some of that is ignorance, probably a combination of both. But Mike, I'd love to know, so you've been in the business for a while. When you were transitioning, I don't know that there were as many services as there are now to help transitioning service members. But given what you know now, what particular services would you have liked to have had that you think would have helped you, and maybe that you've tried to share with Quenton as he transitions? Excuse me.
Yeah, I'd say that's spot on, Jose. I think there's just greater recognition of some of the needs, and these really amazing kind of nonprofits and other organizations have very much stepped up and provided some super meaningful support in that effort. I think just reflecting on some of the skills that I've worked to kind of build or wish I had polished even more, I think just sort of practice with interviewing. I think my experience in the military is one very much of, it's more of a meritocracy, right? Your performance speaks a little more for you. Whereas in the corporate space or kind of post-military space, it's not so easy for those outside the military to understand the experiences you've had. And I think the risk is that you may not get sort of full credit, right? That if the experience is misunderstood, that they may not understand how complex it was, how challenging it was, the sort of the complexity that you had to manage, the difficult decisions you had to grapple with, how you had to lead, how you had to influence, how you had to be a great teammate in some of these contexts. So I think just getting experience and getting comfortable with this idea of interviewing and sharing your experience. I think for a lot of us in military, it's not really an individual. It's not a solo sport, right? It's always a team sport. And I think our inclination is always to say, well, it's a team effort, and it was, and it's difficult, I think, for a lot of us to sort of conceptualize my role in that space and how I add value. But I think learning how to sort of place yourself, in those scenes, in those moments, and articulating, explaining your experience and really getting that sort of full credit for the wonderful experiences that you've had takes time, and it takes practice. And so I think just going through those motions can be really, really helpful. And I think some of these nonprofit organizations, including kind of engagements like ACP, with talking with Quenton and hearing kind of his experiences and his answer, and just offering some perspective and feedback to think about how to translate that, or how that sounds to somebody who's not still in uniform, can be incredibly helpful. So those are the sort of services that I think can be really, really helpful. Kind of preparing and building some of those muscles, some of those new competencies that will continue, hopefully, to serve Quenton and others well, kind of as you go further in your career.
Yeah. Hey, Quenton, so, along those lines, obviously, you participated in the ACP program and have developed a professional relationship with Mike. In that process, do you feel like mentorship has played a significant role in your success as you've transitioned?
Oh yeah. Yeah, mentorship is extremely valuable. I would say one of the big things for me is a mentor is someone who's vested in you but is in no way evaluating you. And it's someone that you can be completely honest with, things that you may not be completely honest with your coworker, your supervisor, even your spouse or significant other. I mean, because there's somebody that has been there more than likely and can really help you through it. Because I came to Mike with a couple of things, basically threw my hands up. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't think I belong here. Kind of the imposter syndrome that he was speaking to earlier. And that's a real benefit of mentorship is that it's someone that has a vested interest in you, but is not grading you. They're not evaluating you. They're not determining your future. And so it's a very risk-free environment and stress-free environment for me.
Yeah.
I may not have made it a stress-free environment for Mike sometimes when I came to him with my problems, but he made it a stress-free environment for me.
So that's a terrific answer. And, I think one of the things that I would ask both of you this is, of course, mentorship is, you have the opportunity as a protege to look up at someone who has maybe seen the success that you want to see, or at least can provide significant value to you in that manner, kind of a vertical manner. But what about networking and your transition? Mike, would you say that there comes a point where you no longer need networking, or does that continue long after your service?
I think it becomes more important as you go on in your career. And I think one of the things that that has really been impressed upon me as I've gained more and more experience and aspire to ever greater challenges and opportunities. I think it's recognizing that important, that I believe that my organization, Johnson & Johnson, I've described it to friends and teammates as a relationship-based company. That really taking time to invest in those relationships, which is really what I think mentoring is. It's investing in those connections and trying to understand and appreciate kind of the perspectives and experiences and pathways and strengths in areas of opportunity that are in our different teammates in different parts of the organization. I think taking the time to design and build kind of the network you want to have, the connections that I think you can form to either just be better at contributing to the business and being able to get the job done a bit more effectively by knowing kind of who's out there, how they operate, how they fit in that bigger picture. But I think there's also networking for career exploration and saying, well, I'm curious, how did you get to this position, and what are the critical competencies you see there being, and can you tell me more about some of the challenges and some of the areas that maybe I can work on to be a better candidate for those kind of opportunities? So I think there's that. And then I think, that the other kind of major form of networking that comes to mind is really building what I've kind of described, I think in some of my conversations with Quenton, is a mentor network. So I think that's just the ACP relationship is wonderful. Though I would posit that as Quenton goes further, right, building kind of that, what you can think of as like a board of advisors, right? People that you go to that may or may not be part of your kind of immediate team, your immediate kind of sphere, but who can offer different perspectives. And I think over time, I've really invested in those relationships over time. And I now have mentors who I've been talking to for 5-10 years. And I know their wives and their husbands' names. I know their kids' names. I know who's kind of practicing, who's got basketball practice next week and who's got concert. It's just, but that's where I kind of come back to the comment I made earlier about really savoring those relationships and those connections. And I think that's a big part of what makes the experience better and better and better over time. But it also pays incredible dividends, or has paid incredible dividends for my learning, my development, my career satisfaction, my growth as a person, as a professional, and every other way imaginable. So I feel like that's where, to your point, Jose, that networking effort can take different forms, but they're all so incredibly important and special in their own way.
Yeah. So Quenton, interesting, comment about what Mike is talking about is you're in a very interesting situation, because I don't think in any of our lifetimes we could have ever considered the circumstance we're in right now. And you likely had to do some significant digital networking, which is, again, it was new and untested and uncharted waters. So what has that part played in your career and your transition, if anything at all? I would assume it has.
Oh yeah, it's played a big part in it. And Mike's smiling right now because this was one of the things we talked about early on. I had an internship for 3 months with Honeywell where I likely was not going to be in the office at all. And like you said, like you want to form relationships with the people that'll hopefully be your coworkers, that'll hopefully be the ones that'll hire you, which you feel like you're at a big disadvantage when you won't be going in. So you're exactly right. It definitely is a big setback and something you have to overcome. And I would say that one of the ways I found success was going over and above to connect with people.
Yeah.
You have to make, and Mike and I have talked about this, like almost like a schedule of people you're going to reach out to and connect with. I'm a person that needs everything laid out for me. And so I like to make a schedule, like how long has it been since I've reached out to this person? And not because you're trying to utilize them, but just you're trying to build a network. And so, you reach out first to talk to the people that are in your team, find out what they do, find out, what their role is, how your role interacts with them, and then find out who supports them, building that understanding of who's there, and then continuing to touch back with people, figure out if you can help them, if they can leverage your position and it's just building that network slowly. And it's much more, I would say it's much more important now than pre-COVID, just because there is so little personal interaction, one-on-one connection.
That is absolutely true. And I tend to use a lot of the professional platforms, digital platforms like LinkedIn. Of course, there are others, but most of those are kind of tinfoil hat, and people are going to get into some stuff that I'd almost rather not. But in those professional environments, what I find is the opportunity to, like you said, Quenton, interact with people on a regular basis and build meaningful relationships, which kind of speaks to what you, Mike, were talking about is meaningful, significant, long-term relationships. And I think for the first time we're seeing it is possible digitally, although, of course, I assume all of us would prefer to do it in person, and we're very comfortable doing so. Mike, your company is so humongous. I can't even imagine. It's worldwide. And I have to assume that you've built those types of relationships across many business units, and growing, your relationships and, the kinds of benefit that you were talking about just a moment ago.
Yeah, it's been a great sort of opportunity as I've kind of moved through different roles and different business units in the organization. I started in the consumer product side. I moved and did some different work in medical devices, and now work in the pharmaceutical side. And just along the way, having the privilege to engage and interact with so many different, leaders and partners and contributors, and just having that sort of interest and that desire to learn more about different spaces has gotten me kind of in front of, whether it's in person or virtually, in front of a lot of different really talented individuals. So just over time, that's helped kind of expose me to different parts of the organization, but also expose me to different leaders. And I've really just enjoyed building those relationships and just continuing to learn and benefit from their perspective and their experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so Mike, for those members in our comment section, and let me apologize to our comments folks. I recognize, the gremlins tend to get in there, and for whatever reason, Higher Military on LinkedIn just kind of did its thing. But thankfully, we're on YouTube and Facebook going and strong. But I would ask for those people who are listening in who might have an interest in mentoring, would you recommend it to your organization and to the individuals within that organization, whether they have a direct affiliation with the military or not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I feel like it's just such an incredibly rewarding experience. As I mentioned before, I look forward to the conversations with Quenton each month. It's whether the individuals have a military background or not. I think that everyone kind of has a perspective to offer, the dialogue to engage in. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think that's what's really the most enjoyable to me about the engagements with Quenton is it's a dialogue. It's a discussion. I mean, this is not like consulting the article or a magic 8 ball. I just Quenton, the answer is yes. It's definitively. Yeah,
you don't have all the answers.
Yeah, but I love the dialogue. He's just being just a really talented professional, right? Like he's thinking just about a lot of different things, and brings such great sort of questions and thoughts that we kind of work through together. And that's where I say I learn tremendously from those engagements. So, just another area I would totally commend Quenton on too is just his kind of level of candor and just being comfortable and being confident enough in his ability to kind of, to bring really great topics and questions forward. And so I think that's what drives tremendous value in that dialogue. But again, it's been just such an incredibly rewarding experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Quenton, similar question for you, but obviously from the protege side. We do tend to be stubborn as service members, and we want to believe we can accomplish all things by ourselves or as part of the team. And so as you're transitioning, what are your thoughts on the mentorship that you've gotten through ACP? Of course, with Mike's guidance, would you recommend the program to other people?
Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend the program to other people. Really, because when you come out of the military, like you said, like you're a self-starter, you're a leader, you can accomplish everything. But one of the things that you may or may not realize is that once you get out of the military, a lot of the technical skills you have and abilities may not transfer to the civilian world. And there are, the leadership, the management, all that kind of stuff, it does transfer, but a lot of our technical skills doesn't transfer. And so you really lose a lot of those tools, or need to refine those tools before they're useful again in your new job. And that's one of the benefits that I saw was, like Mike had said, like being honest and being candorful with, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know if I have anything to give. And that was, what he was able to do for me in a lot of situations, which is, break down to the basics. Okay, here's what you have. Now let's refine this. Let's retool this into something that a company out there will want to see and want to use and understands what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
That it brought a lot to me through that aspect of the mentorship, which is able to take what I brought to the table and retool it, redefine it into something that's useful in the civilian world and marketable.
I appreciate that, Quenton. I really, that's meaningful to me as well, because just as a fellow service member turned civilian, I guess we all have to leave the service at some point. The military has a 100% transition rate. So we all have to go at some point. And so, I really appreciate, your comments, and in particular, because you've taken on such a huge workload as you transition, and you're to be commended for your courage. Mike, similarly to you, you're to be commended, not just for your mentorship, but the fact that, you are on the front lines of caring for all of us through the vaccination program, and what you all have done. Very much appreciate you both. I recognize, we could go on forever, and I would very much enjoy doing that. But I know that your time is valuable. And so for those who may have missed this, we're going to make sure to put it back up on LinkedIn to ensure that it gets to our audience there. but so thankful to our members on the Facebook page and our members on YouTube. Of course, this video stays archived on all those platforms. Gentlemen, any last thoughts about mentorship, about your transition that you might be willing to share with our audience? Quenton, let's start with you.
The only thing I would like to share is that this is a really valuable program, and it really does. The benefit I took from it is just, someone who has had the experience, who has found success, helping you create those building blocks that will lead to success in the civilian world. And even if you don't think you need it, you do need it. You need somebody to show you the ropes, to show you the path to get there. And there's a lot of value to be found in it. And a lot of, personal development is, we've been talking about, success in the business world, but just as a personal development too, taking that mental transition from a service member to a civilian. And I have gotten a lot of benefit from that. So if anybody out there is on the fence, I would definitely say choose the mentorship program, because you will get, and you will get a lot of success and benefit from this.
Quenton, I really appreciate that. I know I'm inspired by you and your journey. I really appreciate you, and I know you're going to go really far, and we're really looking forward to following your journey. Mike, similar question to you. Any last pearls of wisdom from you?
I don't know about pearls, but maybe just to second what Quenton explained. I think it's an incredibly good investment of time and energy. For anyone on the fence, on the mentoring side, I think this is just a remarkable opportunity to sort of pay it forward. I think back on all the mentors that I still have, who have kind of helped me learn along the way. I think about the mentors I had from the military, in the service, the men and women who took time out of their day to kind of help me, and just to be able to pay a little bit of that forward. I think it's just such a special opportunity, but I can't say it's entirely, selflessly, because again, I continue to learn from Quenton. I really, really do enjoy the conversations, and look forward to them. So it's I think it's just a great investment of time and energy, and there's not a lot I look forward to as much as these engagements.
Oh, Mike, Quenton, I really appreciate your time this afternoon, and I encourage everyone who's watching to go by acp-usa.org and take a look at them, because I am pretty sure you're going to want to sign up for it. It's free, by the way, guys, to get an amazing mentor. And somehow those gremlins just know exactly how to find the perfect person to match you up with. And it's obvious in the relationship between Quenton and Mike. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. Gentlemen, thank you for yours, and the best of luck as you move forward in your careers.
Thank you so much, Jose.